Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I'm here today with Breanne Smedley. Breanne is a certified female athlete confidence coach who works to empower and enable female athletes to cultivate true confidence, unlock potential, level up performance across all aspects of their lives. She has a true passion for empowering and enabling female athletes and their parents with the mental aspect of their sport, the missing key to confident and elite performance. Her areas of expertise include goal setting, affirmations, and visualization, crushing limited beliefs, shifting self-talk, overcoming mistakes, performing under pressure, letting go of perfectionism, managing stress, and becoming more resilient. If our daughters and our athletes can learn this when they're young, they won't suffer and have problems with these things when they get older. As a former collegiate volleyball player and longtime coach, Breanne has experienced firsthand the unique struggles that female athletes face on the court and in life, which is why she and her sister-in-law founded the Elite Competitor, where they provide courses, programs, and community to help support female athletes step into their power and thrive in their sport and in life. Today, we talk about coming back from mistakes, the 3 non-negotiables to elite performance, how to overcome common confidence killers in female athletes, raising a self-confident daughter who becomes a self-confident woman, the number way to help the female athlete in your life develop confidence, as well as yourself, because it all starts with you. Developing productive self-talk, real versus fake confidence, how to spot the difference. We talk a lot about how the confidence that you want your child or athlete to have starts with you having confidence. It starts with you having self-talk. We talk about affirmations, visualizations, shifting our self-talk so much, letting go of perfectionism and becoming more resilient, having mental strength. This was such a good episode, you guys. It really deals with all aspects of confidence, which helps us in all aspects of our lives when we have greater confidence. So without further ado, we're going to dive into this episode. It was powerful, you guys. Don't think if you don't have an athlete that you're not going to get anything out of it. This was so good. And I feel like we could take most of these lessons for ourselves and use them in our own lives, at work, in the boardroom, in relationships, and just to power up our own performances. So without further ado, we're going to dive into this episode with Breanne. I am excited. I have a special treat for you guys today. I have Breanne Smedley, and we are going to talk all about creating better confidence. Welcome.
Thank you. So excited to be on.
This is one of my favorite topics because I feel like as women and just throughout my life that confidence really plays a huge role in everything we do. And I know like self-esteem and being in like being a battered woman as I was when in my first marriage, I really had to work hard to regain confidence and self-esteem that I lost. And so like, I just recognize as women, as adults, I mean, we wouldn't find ourselves in less than desirable situations if we had the confidence all about ourselves, which I think is strength. And we had the knowing that our worth And I think that's all part of confidence. And so that's why I think it's such an important topic. And I see a lot of young girls getting in relationships and things that are less than what they are worth, and they don't recognize it. So I think it all stems back to confidence. And we're going to talk about on the court, off the court, in our adult lives. So take it away.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. You hit on so many things just in that are so important to me too, because I think all women kind of struggle at some point in their lives with confidence and that belief in themselves. And for me, it was on the volleyball court. And, you probably wouldn't know it from the outside, and I think that we do a really good job of putting that armor up and being like, I'm going to fake it till I make it. But on the inside, really struggling with that self-doubt and worried about letting people down and, perfectionism, being afraid to fail and afraid to succeed. There's these competing things. And so for me in high school, I was a talented volleyball player, an athlete, but on the inside, I was really tearing myself apart. My self-talk was pretty negative. I was worried about letting my parents down, my coaches down, and I couldn't handle the pressure. And I actually quit playing that sport that I love when I got to the point where it was getting really competitive and I was getting college offers. And so I was like, okay, I'm just done. I'm just done playing. I can't handle the pressure. Told everyone I was burned out, but really on the inside, like looking back 15 years later, I can see very clearly what it was. I was afraid of success. It was too much pressure. I didn't have the confidence in myself to, go on and play at another level because I thought I was going to fail everybody. And I couldn't stand the thought of that happening. And so I just cut it off. And I was like, I'll just handle it right now. It'll be better. Fast forward a little bit, I actually did go to college at a school that had a really great volleyball program. I missed it too much. I asked the coach if I could try out walk on, made the team, and ended up playing for another 5 years. But in a program that highly prioritized mental health and mental training. And I was able to, through the skills that I learned, to regain that confidence. And that's when I got to scratch the surface of how building confidence and having the skills to build confidence, which a lot of times we think we should just be confident, but how do we do that? So actually having skills to do that can make a huge difference. So when I graduated,
what are the
yes.
skills we should be instilling in our daughters as well as ourselves? What are the skills to be confident? Because I know that it requires work. We're not just born confident.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. The skills that I learned there and then later became, positive performance mindset coach and now working with hundreds of athletes in this area, the skills of self-talk, being able to confront and reframe our limiting beliefs about ourselves, the skill to imagine a vision of ourselves that's possible and not limited by what we've done or the mistakes we've made in the past. Visualization is a huge one too. So along with that vision. It really, self-talk is that huge driver, but also, how to respond to mistakes and failure in a productive way. So not being afraid of mistakes, of failure, of success, and not being afraid of that emotion that comes with it. That's a skill too. So those are kind of, some of just those skills that scratch the surface of building that confidence.
Let's talk a little bit about our fear of success, because I had that greatly in a lot of ways, because some of the things I do can be pretty powerful. Like when you talk in front of a group, you do things that inspire people, and there can be fear associated with that success. You might be afraid when you win that trophy or you win the game that people are going to be jealous, or you might be afraid that your success is going to take you away from friends and family, or that you're going to have to keep it up, like it's a high level and it's a lot of work. I mean, let's talk about that. Let's dive into the fear of success a little bit.
Right. And this, it sometimes it's mind blowing. When I say fear of success, like when my when my husband hears me say that, or like, he's a football coach. He's like, fear of success, really? I'm like, yes, this is a real thing that like
I
female.
sincerely, I know
Yeah.
it sounds weird, but I had it so horribly. Like I probably still do a little bit.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily the fear of, so when we talk about like in athletes, that would be, being like a more of a role player on the team, like, being the best player, getting more playing time, getting like recognition, winning the big game. For me, it was like playing in college, that's another level above myself that I hadn't done yet. And then, off the court, that's just any success that we could have. And I see it pop up, in building a business and, getting more recognition and getting bigger and having more followers and people looking to you. And it's not necessarily that we fear. It's what
It's
comes
a
with
lot
it.
of pressure.
Exactly. That's what you said. So the pressure, the expectations, now people are expecting me to do this. The work, okay, it's more work.
Yeah, more work.
That fear,
Everybody's
that like,
gunning for you.
yes. And what if I let them down? And that jealousy too, like that, I mean, that one is huge in high school, but I still see it now.
Oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. Like, are people not going to like me now that I'm successful? So it's just all that fear. And sometimes, I mean, for me, it was like, well, I'm just going to cut it off, and it still pops up, and like you said, in building a business and running a successful business, it's like, oh gosh, we tend to try and bring ourselves back down, and we're like, okay, let's get back to what's comfortable. Let's bring ourselves down. When really, on the other side of that fear is our greatest
Biggest
potential and our
dreams.
greatest growth. Yeah. And so we have to really confront that fear.
Oh my gosh. It just takes me back to when I was selling and I
Right.
was always number one in sales.
Mm-hmm.
And my boss would call me his number one girl. And, like I was a racehorse or something,
Right.
and he'd be like cheering me on. But the thing is he would brag about me in front of the whole staff,
Mm-hmm.
which then set me up for everybody wanting that spot, wanting that recognition and that praise, and gunning for me. And
Right.
like or my spot, maybe not for me
Right.
personally, but
Yeah.
and just then the pressure of trying to keep that up, which I did the whole entire time. I was number one in sales. But like it was a lot of pressure. And I remember one time thinking, man, I'm going to go on my honeymoon here soon. Maybe number two is not a bad spot. Maybe number two, it's not a bad thing to be in. And I left and I was gone for 2 weeks and I came back and it was still in the number one spot. But like I hustled. But what I'm saying about it is just like being your best. Sometimes there's the fear of, failure. Like you want to be the best, you want to continue being the best. So like, I don't want to slip, or, people are going to be jealous or hating upon you, just the pressure of keeping it up. And so, and then sometimes it could be around other things where you feel like you might lose family or friends because what you're doing is going to take you away. And so I just think that people do not realize how much fear of success could be a reality.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. I see it over and over in females and female athletes specifically, because what they resort to is just hesitating and pulling back. And they're like, okay, I'll let, I want to preserve like, what people think of me. And I don't want people to be mad at me. So I'm just going to like hesitate. I'm just going to pull back. I won't let myself shine, and, that quote from Marianne Williamson, where it's like, our greatest fear isn't our
I love that
being
quote.
inadequate, it's that we're powerful beyond measure. And so it's huge. And until we can, realize that we have everything within us that we need to be and achieve another level, we'll always be limited by that fear. So.
And to clarify, I started sales when I was probably about 8.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah.
With my brother, we sold for the Y the YMCA, Thin Mints or something,
Oh my
and
goodness.
won all kinds of awards. So like I started as a young girl knocking on doors,
Mhm.
you know, and so I think like it's whatever you're innately that you are gifted at, it just comes naturally to you. It's something that you just naturally do. And many times with whatever it is, we can be afraid of our own light, our own power.
Mhm.
Like we recognize that it's powerful
Right.
and we're a little bit of afraid to
Mhm.
just go with it fully.
Right. Oh,
So
yeah.
why should we? Then my question is,
Mhm.
why should we embrace our power and confidence
Mhm.
to the full and go with it fully and not dim our light and not be afraid to shine bright?
Yeah. Living our authentic selves like that is the most freeing, empowering feeling that we could have as women. And I feel like when I faced that fear and I took action and I decided, the first time I did that would be in college, and I decided to make that choice, like, I'm going to play anyways. I'm just going to see what happens. I mean, I can't imagine my life without that. And imagine, the confidence in that I built from just taking that action and stepping in and seeing, wow, like this is what's possible. So it's not just what you can achieve. And now in the business, it's not just, how many lives we can impact, although that is huge too, but it's also just that feeling of feeling empowered, feeling like you can be your authentic self and not worry about what other people are saying or thinking.
Being
We always will have
unapologetic.
that. Exactly. And that feeling is just, unmatched by anything else. And that's when we can really, really impact other people and inspire other people to do the same. It's how, in Christina and I's business, my sister-in-law who runs our business, we run our business together. It's how we're able to impact hundreds and hundreds of athletes, young athletes, with these skills to be able to do that themselves. And so I just see that ripple effect. And if we pull back, we dim our lights, and we don't do that, we are, we're leaving so much opportunity on the table for ourselves and for the people that we can inspire.
Yeah, totally. Because when I see somebody just fully being who they are, like if they're funny, they're fully hilarious, or they're sarcastic, they're fully sarcastic, whatever their traits are, when they're owning their light, it makes you feel good, and you want to be around that person.
Mm-hmm.
And equally, it gives you permission, like what you said, to
Yeah.
just shine your own light because they're being so authentic. And I think that that is beautiful when somebody is completely authentically just being who they really are and not like judging, no, not judging about it, not being like, oh gosh, I'm worried like this person might not like it if I'm like this. This person might not like it if I'm like that. It's all that people pleasing, which I don't think people pleasing, I think that shows a lack of confidence.
It does. And I think more women need to hear that because, sometimes when we're on the other side of it and we see these women being successful and we see them owning their power and really stepping into, their authentic selves, sometimes the tendency is for us to say like, well, if she's doing it, what does that mean for me? Like she's already taken, it's like the scarcity mindset that we hear a lot about. And what I teach our athletes to do, and I think it applies to everybody, is if she can do it, it's proof you can too.
Right. Then it's an inspiration instead of what we might be like envious or jealous. If you
Mm-hmm.
pay attention to what you have FOMO over,
Yeah.
that's probably what you really want to do. So instead of spending the time being envious and hating on a person, then, oh, I really want to do that. She did that. Like you said, I can do that too. Oh, well, how did she do that? Maybe
Yeah.
she can give me some tips on how I can do that.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, you're in the fitness industry, so you see it all the time. And we see it in our business too. We're like, okay, there's other female athlete mindset coaches, and we're like rooting for them. Like we want them to have enormous launches. We want them to have so many athletes in their program because we're like, if she can do it, that means we can do it. And, and then we can collaborate. And the ultimate goal is to impact as many people as possible. And, so I just, that mindset switch is just so empowering, and, goes along with your mission too of, empowering women together. And, it's just amazing when we can see that happen.
And so like, this is so funny, but I had this choreographer for fitness. I think it was from Ms. Fitness. And he was teaching me, because I learned at 40 how to do all this stuff. And so I was doing like gymnastic stuff, all this stuff I had never done in my entire life.
Yeah.
And I remember him standing behind me, teaching me to do the walk in the high heels. And then he was like pretending to be one of the competitors. And he said, I hope you trip, bitch.
Oh, really?
I was like, oh my God. He's like, I was just like, I would never like look at somebody and wish for them to trip,
Right.
or fall out of their handstand or whatever. Like, cause it just like, this is not who I am. It's not the way I think. But like, you might wish that your score is better than the other person's. You might wish that your performance excels. But you know what I found is when I would go and I would cheer for the other competitors and root them on, I did better.
Right.
I did better. I always did better when I had that kind of mindset of abundance versus scarcity. So if you find yourself being the person standing back, wishing the other person trips, I guarantee you it's going to bring your game down in life, on the court, wherever you're at. So it's really that, what you said, the abundance mindset.
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah, you better check yourself. And I think that's important, like, because we get that, we get that feeling sometimes when you're scrolling or whatever. And then just being curious, like, okay, wait, if she can do it, hey, I can do it too.
Flipping that switch, like you said, you talk about limiting beliefs. And I think along with the scarcity thing, it's the limiting beliefs, because we're focusing upon the qualities of another instead of focusing on the attributes we have. Like realizing that we're equally great and that we have things to bring to the table as well. And when people can see, like, count their blessings rather than being envious, it really flips that switch. And you said you were talking all about self-talk, and I really want to dive into that, because as mothers, as women, as and we're raising daughters, dive into why our self-talk is so important.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It really starts with that self-talk. And within our programs, half of it is we are training athletes, right? And their mindset and everything like that. But the other half is actually training the mom. And we talk about like how to build confidence in your daughter. And when we have this 5-day challenge that moms go through, and when they join it, they're like, okay, great. I'm going to get like scripts on what I can say to my daughter, all of these things. And day one is all about your own, like the mom's self-talk. And sometimes they're like, what does my self-talk have to do with my daughter's confidence? Okay. It is so, so, so important. So what we say to ourselves on the inside, even if it's like no one ever hears it, our thoughts become reality. Thoughts become things, right? And so what we think determines how we feel. We take action based on how we feel, and our actions give us our results, which put us in situations that we either like or don't like, and they reaffirm our thoughts or not. So it really starts with that thought. And so what we have moms do, and what I have to constantly do myself, is really be aware and in check with what thoughts I have going on in my mind. So do I have limiting thoughts on repeat? Like, I can't do that. I'm not good at that. I've never been good at that. I hate this about my body. All of those things that go on in our head, even if we're not saying it out loud, our thoughts create our reality, right? And so changing around that self-talk is the first step in building confidence. That's really where it all starts.
So what are some of the affirmations that we should be saying to ourselves, or that we could do on a daily basis to help build that, good self-talk?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the first the first step is awareness, right? It always is. So what we have, our moms do is go through and just kind of take inventory, because sometimes we have these limiting beliefs and thoughts that are running on repeat that have been there for 20, 30, 40 years, like they come from our childhood. They come from something that somebody said to us when we were in elementary school, and we've just adopted that as our own, and so we have to really dig into first, like, what are the thoughts that are going on in our heads, because sometimes they're as unconscious as anything. We just go through our day and we're saying these things to ourselves. So we have moms that actually write out, like, what are these thoughts? What do you say to yourself that is not productive? And then we're going to take that and we're going to change it to something that is more productive. And notice I'm not necessarily saying positive. If we're saying, like, I really hate my legs, and we say to ourselves over and over, I hate my legs. I hate my legs. Oh, these legs. Every time I look at myself in the mirror, and then I just turn it around to, I love my legs. There's a disconnect, because it's like, well, what, but I really don't. And so more productive would even be bringing it down to, like, my legs help me run. My legs help me get, have carried me my whole life, just making it more productive and more relatable, more realistic, so that we're not going negative. All right. So we have that. And then affirmations as well are extremely important. So what we have our athletes do, what we have our moms do, what I do is kind of think about the vision of who you want to be. Like, if anything were possible, what would that look like? And with athletes, we do it in their sport. With moms, we just do it like in any category, related to their mindset, related to their body, their career, what would it look like? And then once you identify kind of what those things are, then we boil down to affirmations, which are first person positive tense, or first person present tense positive, like I am an owner of a 7-figure business. Okay. And maybe that hasn't happened yet.
I
However,
think you can speak those things. It's future casting.
yeah,
I think
exactly.
I think the spoken word is powerful, because first of all, you're hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's it's creative. Like, when I spoke about my gym, when I was in the smaller, like small one, then we moved to the next, now we just expand again. When I was in the second one, I kept talking about the other space, like I was taking and I was going to have it. I mean, I even I don't even know if I believed it myself.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And I listened back to the podcast where I was saying, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm totally doing it. So I
Yeah.
really do believe in writing down those goals and
Mm-hmm.
speaking out the positive things that you're going to do, be, or create.
Yeah. And I love that you said that, and that, we maybe that hadn't happened yet, but you, by saying it, by putting it out in the universe, like, now you're embodying what that is. And a lot of times we think confidence comes from, like, well, I need to have the thing, and then I'll do this, and then I'll be confident. Okay. When really it's the opposite. It's be, do, have. You need to be and embody that confidence, and that person who owns that bigger space at the gym, or who has a 7-figure business. Like, what do they embody? Right? Embody that confidence daily. Okay. And then your actions are going to align to that, because obviously you took some action in that direction, and then you have the thing. You
Yeah, I
have
had to take a leap.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So the B comes first, and that's where that self-talk comes from. That's where we start embodying the thoughts and the actions, or the thoughts and the feelings of that confident person who already has that we wish we had.
Right. And I think we can be scared to death when we take a big leap.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I just really find, like, if it's your purpose, it's in your heart, and it just won't leave you alone, like, then taking that leap towards something is always better than doing nothing, or just sitting stagnant.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I read a quote. I don't know where it was, but I read a quote. It's like, you could either be afraid of that big leap, or you could imagine yourself a year from now and being in the same exact spot and being afraid of that.
Right. And I just think, like, pushing past that fear and getting over the scarcity mindset there again, and realizing that if you take a leap, you can pivot, you can shift. You're not stuck in cement once you make a decision always. That
Yeah.
there are, like Marie Forleo says, everything is figure outable. I used to say her name was Falero. So I
Close.
always have to stop myself before I say it because it wants to come out Falero.
Zero, yeah, that's not quite right, but I just read her book recently, but so
Oh my gosh. But when you were talking about embracing things about yourself, when you were maybe saying, I hate my thighs, or, I have a muffin top, or whatever your issue is. I was reading the 75 Hard book. Have you heard of 75 Hard?
yeah, of course.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I'm doing that right now.
You are.
And
Oh my gosh. Cool.
yeah, I'm not sure how to say the guy's last name, Andy Frizella or something. I've never heard it said, but that's what it looks like on the book. So if I said that wrong, I apologize. But he got basically his whole face, somebody attacked him and left the scar where he had to have 160 stitches in his face. And he felt like everybody was looking at his face. They either asked him, what happened to your face, or they didn't want to look at him at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until one day this other woman asked him, what the heck happened to your face?
Yeah.
And then he looked up at her like, because she had something too. And then they both started cracking up laughing. And then she started telling him her story of what happened to her. And then, like, he felt forever healed in that moment. And he went into his business and realized my face makes me unforgettable, which is a good thing in business,
Mm-hmm.
and embraced his scar.
Yeah.
And like another friend that I have, Amberly Lago, was in a horrific accident on her motorcycle, and they almost amputated her leg, but they were able to save it. But basically her calf is in the front and she's got, some massive scars. And for the longest time, she felt ashamed of
Mm-hmm.
her leg until she started embracing it, and now showing it as, this proves my grit, this proves my resilience. And she's really become famous because of it. She
Yeah.
talks about grit and resilience. So I think these two examples, they're a little extreme, but it shows you how your weakness, or what you think is your weakness, could be your superpower.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. It's totally turning that weakness into a strength.
Yeah. So like, I think when you realize how powerful just embracing all parts of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and also reframing how your perception and how you're thinking about the things
Mm-hmm.
creates change, and it'll create powerful change in anybody's life. And that's why I believe in the affirmations.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's so powerful, and really there's a ripple effect on it too. So for those of us that are moms, being able to embrace those parts of ourselves that maybe we don't like gives permission for our daughters to do the same. And I've had a lot of heart to hearts with my mom recently, actually, in this area. And I'm grown, I have a family, and my mom is, she's grandkid, like we've lived very much of our lives, and we're still going back to like, realizing how powerful my mom's words were in my own body image, my own confidence, and how we want to change that script and break that cycle for my daughter. And so it just allows us, sometimes we think it's so harmless. Like, I'm saying this about my body, but I'm not saying it about my daughter's body. Like, so it shouldn't matter. She's
but it
totally
but it,
different.
they feel it as if you said it about them.
Yep. And they start to wonder too, like, well, is that my future? Or, maybe I don't look like that now, but will I in the future, and embracing like aging and, all of that. Like, it's just so important, our own confidence as moms, like just absolutely impacts like our daughters, what we think, say, what we do. It all starts with us, really.
It's just really your living example is the biggest story you'll ever tell.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. You're so right. So
Oh
right.
my goodness. So what about the parents
Mm-hmm.
that are fully invested in their kids,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe over the top, like they pressure, the pressure, for their performance because they want them to do so well. They want them to have the scholarships. They want them to play, maybe they want them to play pro volleyball or pro basketball or whatever. And so, of course, your kids want to please you, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but the pressure of not having the perfect game, of your parents being upset, maybe you make a mistake on the court. How do they come back from the mistake and how do they deal with that pressure? What should
Yeah.
the parents do instead?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I'm seeing this a lot more of the pressure and a lot more pressure early on for athletes. Which is really, really hard to see, and just points to the importance of our work even more. But especially for parents, the biggest thing you can do is shift your recognition and what you're focusing on from the outcomes to the process. And even further, to just who your athlete is as a person, regardless of their achievements, regardless of what they do or don't do in their sport. So a lot of times as parents, like you said, it's just very natural for us to focus on the outcome. Like we want to, let's win, make sure you score this amount of points, make sure you even, make sure you play your absolute best. All of those things put pressure on athletes because they're actually not in their control. A lot of times we think, well, their performance is like how many points they score, that is in their control. It's really not. There's another team usually, there's refs, there's other teammates, there's the coach and coaching decisions. The
Right.
win is not really in their control either. And so when we focus on all of that and we focus on the outcome, even focusing on like, you must get a college scholarship and all that, it just adds all of this pressure because athletes don't have control over that. What they do have control over is their own attitude, their behavior, just their work ethic, their ability to be a good teammate. And so what parents need to do is we're going to focus we're going to take that focus away from the outcome and bring it back to process. And just recognizing like, yeah, you scored that goal. That was great. But I noticed how hard you worked in order to put yourself in a position to do that. Or you know what I noticed? I noticed that when your teammate was struggling, you went up to her and you encouraged her. All of those things that are just in athletes' control. And the other thing, the thing that we do in the challenge is even before the first day, we have moms and daughters, we have the moms just post a picture of their daughter and just say one thing that they love most about their daughter. And it's just so amazing to see. It's all these things like my daughter lights up the room that when she walks into it, or my daughter is she's so creative, or she builds great relationships with people. All of these things that aren't like, she scores the most points on her team. None of these things that are linked to the outcomes. And those are the things that we need to be recognizing in our athletes every single day, just who they are as people.
Yeah, and I think like you nailed that one on the head because one of the things I think a parent maybe might want to ask themselves is if I only treat my daughter well when she performs well, is she going to feel like nobody when
Right.
she doesn't perform well or she doesn't do this, because I've made this all about the outcome and all about the performance. How like sometimes it's like even in sales, you're a hero one day, you're in the doghouse the next. Like, when you've like sold like $1 million contract or
Yep.
something. And so it's kind of like feast or famine sometimes, like in sports, when somebody's played and excelled in a game and then maybe they don't do so well in another
Mm-hmm.
game or another area. We don't want them to base their self-esteem on their performance that day.
Yep. We want that gap to be small, that gap between I had the best performance of my life, and how they're feeling there. And I had the worst performance of my life and how they're feeling there. We don't want that to be a big gap as far as how they feel about themselves. We want right here, like whether you performed your best or you didn't, like you said, how my own worth and who I'm as a person doesn't change, and so we're kind of delinking that value, as, I'm more valuable if I'm performing well, and I'm less valuable if I'm not performing well. And parents play a huge role in that, because athletes inherently, most of the female athletes I work with inherently want to please their parents. And
Right. That's the thing. I think if parents could recognize that, of course, they want to please you.
right. Yeah. And so if
Yeah.
you're adding that extra pressure and you're kind of making it seem like, if you play well, you have more of my recognition, and if you don't play well, you don't, then it just makes it worse. And that pressure just becomes unbearable a lot of times for athletes.
And what about coming back from mistakes? You missed the free throw.
Yeah.
Didn't spike the ball for your teammate to hit
Mhm.
it down, or whatever, whatever the mistake is. How do
Mhm.
you coach athletes to come back from mistakes?
Yeah. So there's a couple things that we do. The first thing is just a mindset shift that mistakes are necessary. A lot of times athletes are just afraid to make mistakes. And so they don't even go for it, because they're like, I don't want to make a mistake, so I'm just going to play it safe. And so we just have to first shift that mindset to like, mistakes are necessary. Mistakes are good. They're feedback. So that's kind of the first thing. And
They
then,
mean you're going for it.
yeah, it means that like you can't reach that next level unless you actually like risk, and you're going to make mistakes along the way. But the other thing is that we actually teach a tool called the mistake ritual, and it's a combination. We teach athletes breath work in our program, because we know how important, we breathe all day, but do we really like getting that good like belly breath, to regulate the nervous system and calm our nerves. So we teach them after a mistake. They use their customized mistake ritual. So it's a combination of that breath, one big belly breath. At the top, they say what we call a reset word. So they have a process where they identify a reset word that means a lot to them, that helps them get back to the mindset that they want to be in. So they say their reset word. And then on their exhale, they do a small gesture that's also customized to them. So some athletes like snap their finger, fix the ponytail. They just have like these small little things that only take like a half a second to do. That's just like a tactile reminder to like focus back on the next play. Because if we're focused in the past and replaying that mistake, or we're focused in the future being worried about making another mistake, we're not in the present, and we play our best,
Yes.
perform our best in the present. So we teach them a mistake ritual too, to help with that.
Oh yeah, that is so good. So good. So many things are running through my mind right now, but I haven't tackled visualization with you yet, which I think is a powerful tool. Walk us through how you would have an athlete visualize, but it could also relate to us, because
Mm-hmm.
visualization is powerful.
Oh yeah, I visualize every day as well. Well, I shouldn't say every day. I haven't done it yet today. But we teach a mindset routine that includes visualization for our athletes. So visualization, I mean, there's a lot of science behind it. I won't go into all of it, but the basic premise is that when we visualize, and we recruit all 5 of our senses, and we make it as real as possible, our brains don't actually know the difference between real and imagined when we do that. So we recruit the same like neural patterns, the same neurons are firing when we're visualizing as if we're doing it in real life. And so that's super important for athletes, because they can visualize situations and scenarios and skills even without being out on the court or the field, that prepare their body and mind for them to be able to perform when they are on the court and the field. So we use visualization in every aspect of our program. So there's like pre-performance routines that include visualization, where they're seeing themselves perform how they want to perform. There's mistake ritual visualizations where they actually see themselves making a mistake and then see themselves recovering from it, so that they can do that in a match, in a game. So everything is created in our minds first. And so that's why we tap into that power. And the most effective thing, the kind of the foundation of our program is what we call the daily beast, is what we call it. And it includes a lot of different things, but it's athletes who they visualize their affirmations. So they'll say things like, I am a quick and fast, aggressive defender. And then they spend about 30 seconds visualizing what that looks like. They visualize I'm a connected leader on my team. So they visualize themselves, connecting with their teammates, giving high fives, speaking up when they need to. And so they're basically creating situations and preparing themselves first, so that when they get in those situations, they do it. And obviously this applies off the court too. We can do this in our lives as well.
Yeah, for sure. The visual, when you're doing the visualizing, I really think when you can see yourself, like you said, your mind doesn't know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
You see yourself doing it. That's half the battle is really it's believing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Believing your faith,
Mhm.
your belief. And so when you visualize, that helps to create more belief, I think. And then like what I did when I tore my ACL,
Mhm.
um, I visualized I had my routine down. It happened 2 weeks before a show that I tore it. So I just visualized the routine, the music, just everything. And I would do that every day.
Yeah.
And when I came back, then actually it was a kind of quick. I competed at 4.5 months from that, and I won my championship. And I
Wow.
know that it was just the visualizing and listening to the music. And
Mhm.
I would even do that before I had a routine on stage. I would go, if I could get onto the stage, I would always have a more successful performance when nobody was around, and
Yeah.
mark all of the things where I was going to do them, where I was going to be looking, the whole visualization. I mean, that to me was like creating a visual. And so I just think with anything, if you can see yourself doing it, you're a lot closer to achieving it.
Yeah. Oh, that's the perfect. There are tons of studies about injury too, like athletes coming back from injury and using visualization in like in their process. So I love that you did that. And that's perfect example of like that self-belief and that confidence, because now you have that confidence because you technically have already been in that situation. And it has to be combined with action too. Like I can't just visualize myself like dunking a basketball and I've never ever done that in my life, and but like, when we combine that with, athletes that have this skill, because really it's not a lack of skill that holds us back, right? It's a lack of belief in ourselves that we can actually do it and execute. So that's where the visualization kind of closes that gap too.
Yeah, I really think it's huge. Um, it's a huge thing focusing on too what you want to happen, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So let's talk about injuries a little bit, because as an athlete, the way that kids are pressured these days to play well beyond what we ever did when we were kids,
Yeah.
uh, like there's more injuries, and then there's the fear surrounding, am I going to hurt myself again? How do you help athletes get over that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big one. And, we do see more injuries too, a lot of overuse injuries and a lot of injuries because athletes are playing year round. And so I would say, parents that are listening that have athletes that are playing right now, like make sure they're getting variety, make sure they're getting rest, make sure they're cross training. The athletes are just specializing so early now, but injuries happen and setbacks happen, and even like sicknesses and illnesses and things like
Right,
that. And
right.
so what we help athletes do is first identify and validate the feelings that they're having around that injury, because it's not just the physical injury and what happens to the body, it's also potentially the role in the team is going to change a little bit. They might go from like a starter playing all the time to now they're on the sideline, or
It's an ego leg drop.
yeah, exactly. And they feel, maybe some less value, or maybe they get a little less connected to their teammates and their friends because now they're rehabbing rather than practicing. And so we have them kind of go through all of those emotions and realize like this is a season and things like that. We also have athletes identify their support team in that process. So we have them identify, your support team is made up of like your medical staff, but also maybe your parents and maybe a couple of teammates or friends, your coach, people who are around you to support you in this process and in this season. And we think that's really important because, like I said, athletes can really feel disconnected and feel, kind of isolated sometimes.
And then the confidence, it,
Yeah.
it can go down because you're used to being the star athlete, and now you can't pedal a bicycle or whatever.
Yeah.
So like, speaking to that a little bit,
Mhm.
how important is it that they take their full rest off and do not get pressured to get back in the game before they're ready?
Oh, so important. And that's another thing that we talk about is that, you have to, like, if you go back in earlier, you're taking multiple steps back and you're potentially going to just ruin your progress. So we also in our trainings around injury are like trust the process, try and celebrate the small wins. When you do get clear to do that small thing, do that, but don't go more than that, and be your best at whatever you can do. So if you get cleared to, kick a ball and that's all you can do, you can't run, you can't play defense, you can't, whatever. You're going to be the best at just kicking that ball 3 feet, if that's what you can do. And just trust those small and celebrate those wins along the way, but do not go back in before you're ready. And
right, because then it's just going to be more setbacks on setbacks. Like even with training people in the gym, I want them to get their foundation built and get like strong and confident on their form, because I don't want them just like hurting themselves, because once they hurt themselves, they defeated the whole purpose of getting in shape, because then they're laid up for however long. So it's all about that progression. And I think you have to progress back from your injury. And I think there's a lot of pressure put on players to come back before they should.
Yep. Oh, I see it all the time. And it's just, and I even feel it now. I mean, I'm in a postpartum recovery phase right now. I had a baby 2 months ago, and it's that ego. And I see it with the athletes, and I see it with myself too. It's the ego. Like, I should be able to do this push-up without having to modify, and athletes are like, I should be able to hit a volleyball like I was before. And I was like, no, you're in a different season right now. We've got to go back to basics. We've got to like get that back up, because I know, and just like in my life, like if I rush this, I'm going to be injured. I wouldn't say postpartum is injury, but I'm going to be, not where I want to be a lot longer. And it's the same with athletes. So for sure.
What would you say are the 3 killers of confidence in athletes?
Yeah. So confidence killers in athletes. We've already talked about one in detail, and that is that self-talk. That self-talk would be number one, because tearing themselves down on the inside. We know our thoughts create a reality. So that would be confidence killer number one. Number 2 is being afraid of making mistakes. And so, we talked about that too, but hesitating, not allowing themselves to go for it, and not having the skills to be able to recover from mistakes is a huge, huge confidence killer as well. And so that's why we teach a lot around mistakes and a lot around how to recover from those, because we don't want athletes or anyone being afraid of making mistakes or being afraid of failure, because we'll just set them back in their confidence. And I would say the third one has to do with like perfectionism and expectations, that either they place on themselves, or that they feel like other people are placing on them, because they just feel like they can't live up to that. And that's where like the comparison comes in. It's where the not good enough thoughts come in. And so that perfectionism and just those unrealistic expectations are huge in athletes.
Oh, so good. So good. And so I love some of your things that you have up on your blog, like where you're talking about what they can do, the strategies that they can use, like if they are, afraid of fear of success, if they are afraid of making mistakes. And the one strategy I kind of liked is the question you asked the athlete when it's about the fear of success. Would you rather look back and see that you took the safe path, didn't push the limits, and made others comfortable? Or would you rather look back and see that you stepped into your greatness, pushed the limits, leaned into the discomfort, allowed yourself to risk it all to find out how good you could truly be?
Yeah.
That is so good. And I think we could all learn from that question.
I know. I'm like, I need to remind myself of my own words right now.
I'm like, that is so good. So good. And so the blog that you have and the business you have created, tell us a little bit about how everybody can get a hold of that and how they could enroll their daughters. And you have a freebie for us today.
Yeah. So we have everything at christinabrianne.com/sisterhood. So we've created a special page just for the listeners of the Sisterhood of Sweat, where you can find all our information. So on that site, and I know it'll be linked in the show notes, but we have the freebie. So the 5-day challenge that I've talked about on how to build confidence in your athlete daughter. We have that for you, for especially for your listeners, and it'll take them through that 5-day challenge. And like I said, yes, it's about building confidence in your daughter, but really it starts with us. So this is a self-discovery. It's very powerful and very transformative. We also have a link to our free Facebook community that we have. It's a large community of moms of female athletes, and I go live in there every week, providing tips and trainings. We also have information about our program. So our signature program is called the Elite Competitor Program. We open the doors to that a few times a year, and that is an 8-week program in which we develop confidence in athletes on the court, on the field, in life. And it's 8 weeks of a course, but also live support. And it's just a very awesome, transformative program that athletes go through. They go through with a cohort of other athletes for those 8 weeks. And it's just a really, really, really awesome experience. So.
Wow, this is so great. How in the world did you come up? I mean, how did you end up in this space of helping young athletes? That's what I find fascinating.
Yeah. So kind of when I graduated, as soon as I graduated high school, I actually got right into coaching. And I was a head coach of my first volleyball team at 21 years old. And the athletic director gave me the roster of the team and was like, all right, coach them up. I'm like, wait, okay. And so I went out there and I, found got my grounding, got my footing. But what I found over and over was that I could teach volleyball skills over and over. Volleyball skills were the easy part, right? What I was running into was that these athletes were skilled, they were talented, they were improving their volleyball skills and knowledge, but what was holding them back was their mindset. And I was like, I feel like I'm looking at myself as a high schooler. And, while I kind of went through my journey of being able to develop confidence, I don't know how to teach this to athletes. And so I, about 5 or 6 years into my coaching career, and I've been coaching for about 12 years now, decided to seek out resources and certifications to become a positive performance mindset coach. And so that's kind of where that stemmed off of, because as coaches aren't trained in that at all. They're barely even trained on how to coach. They just kind of coach how they were coached a lot of times. And so in order for coaches to, athletes and parents can't rely on their own sport coaches to be able to also provide the mental aspect of the game. And so I just knew that it was so important, and it was what was holding my athletes back. So I decided to really dive into it. And then, realize that there are so many athletes that I can be serving in this way. And that's kind of how I stepped into this space with my sister-in-law, who also has a passion for leadership, for mindset coaching for female athletes. So we joined forces and have this amazing business together now. So.
And chances are some of this could be what's holding us back in ways, right? So we can totally use it. This is a win-win for everybody. I just want to acknowledge you so much on being so well-versed on your topic and having so many tools and resources for everybody out there so they can have better confidence. What is one thought you would like to leave with everyone today about creating better confidence?
Oh boy, one thought. Let's see here. I would say that confidence is what unlocks our greatness. And I know that might sound a little cheesy, but it really is.
I actually like it. It's simple and easy to remember.
We can have all the physical training in the world. We can have all the tips and the tricks, and but if we don't have that confidence,
I like cheese.
Yeah. So yeah, let's go with it then. If it's cheesy, I like it. So yeah.
Perfect. So great. Thank you so much. And thanks for all that you do. And everybody make sure to check out her website. Can you say the page again?
Yes, it is christinabrianne.com/sisterhood. That is that special place where all the Sisterhood of Sweat listeners can go and find everything about our programs and work with us. So Yeah.
And thanks everybody for listening to this episode of the Sisterhood of Sweat. Bye everyone.
Bye.